Geez, do our customers ever shut up? I thought that guy was never going to leave.
My friend, it's going to be a long day for you if you're starting out like that.
It already is. I've been here all day.
So I hate to break this to you, but your 12-hour shift is just getting started. When was the last time you looked at a clock?
Do we even have a clock in here?
Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, short films, long films, in the case of this evening, movies that fit precisely in between. So, Rob, we watch a lot of movies here at the store, right?
So many.
So many. And even on this podcast, we talk a lot about runtime. It's not uncommon for a movie to feel 20 minutes too long sometimes, right?
That's kind of become the norm.
Yeah. Now, there is the rare occasion where you have a movie that is shorter and could feel like it could use maybe just a little bit more character development. That's not as common as the movies that are too long.
I don't know what kind of movies you're watching. That happens very rarely.
Very rarely. But I would say that perhaps it's our sensitivity to runtime that has led to 2 episodes of this podcast focused on length. We've recommended movies that were over 170 minutes, and we've also devoted an entire staff recommendation shelf to films that clocked in at under 85 minutes. Tonight, we are splitting the difference. As most listeners know, you and I are in charge of scouring the store for movies that are deserving of our customers' attention. We keep the staff recommendation shelf fresh, and each time we do, we rotate in new movies that adhere to a theme. This week's theme is films that are just about 127 minutes long.
Finally, the episode in which I get trapped between 2 rocks and have to cut off my own arm to survive.
Yes, yes. Well, I figure, just to honor the previous episodes, maybe the right way to go here is to alternate between talking about each of these movies for 85 minutes and then 170 minutes and then 85 minutes and 170 minutes. Does that feel like the right way to go?
Sounds rough. Sounds like I quit.
Yeah. So I wouldn't blame you. So there's a narrow window with this approach to runtime, right? We with the previous episodes, I think we had the freedom to go longer than 170 minutes, which thank goodness we didn't, and then also shorter than 85 minutes by any amount of time.
Yes.
But here we were pretty strict with no more than 2 minutes on either side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we gave ourselves actually, I think we gave ourselves even more leeway than that going into this, but we ended up choosing movies that were within 2 or 3 minutes of what we were shooting for. I think
we're great at what we do.
Yeah, the truth is there's not a lot of movies that are under 85 or over 170, although and then there's a lot that are about 2 hours and 7 minutes, it turns out.
Yeah. Although it was hard for me I'm sure there's an easier way to do it than I did, but I had a hard time tracking down a way to catalog movies that I've seen or movies that I wanted to see by runtime.
Letterboxd will do that for you.
Oh, man, it's such a good website.
It's such a good website.
Yeah.
You talked about how it seems like movies are consistently 20 minutes too long now, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think it's streaming has emphasized the amount of time people spend on your service, and so you're not necessarily hurt by a long runtime.
Right.
Whereas in theaters, a shorter movie can play more often, so you can get more showings, you can make more money in a day. Whereas streaming, they're like, we don't care as long as people don't turn it off, as long as they're on our service. And also digital filming has changed a lot. You don't have to pay for film. You don't have to pay for every foot of film that you're filming.
It's funny that you mention the phenomenon in theaters where, yes, they can get more showtimes in if the movie is shorter, which obviously that's better. Yeah. And yet, in today's theaters, it's hard to go to a movie without sitting through almost exactly a half hour of previews and commercials before the movie begins. And that drives me bonkers.
And the movie's already 2 hours and 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then now, so they're taking up a 3-hour chunk of time there. It's crazy. Yeah, but at least now you can reserve your seats and come in late if you want.
Absolutely. You can adjust your arrival.
But Hollywood's trying to figure out how to save money. They're trying to figure out, like, how come all of our big blockbuster movies cost $200 million. We're trying to they're trying to figure out how to cut costs and whatever. It's like, well, first of all, stop making movies that are so fucking long.
Yeah.
Fix the script ahead of time instead of shooting everything you can think of and then getting into the edit and go well, let's try to get a movie out of this. And you end up putting something together that's 2.5 hours long. There's just way too much extra runtime in these movies. Even something like the new Mission Impossible movie, which is, I think, 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
That's too long.
It's a movie I really enjoy. But the first 35 to 40 minutes could be completely cut out of that movie and it wouldn't make a difference.
Oh, wow.
It drives me nuts where it's you don't even need this stuff. Cut it out.
I've seen the most recent Mission Impossible, but I can't remember the first 30 to 45 minutes, which is proof that there's just too much of it there.
Yeah, there's too much of it there.
Yeah.
And I hate to be the runtime guy, but I think most movies are a little bit too long nowadays. I think a lot of the movies we're going to talk about tonight are maybe pushing their runtimes a little bit.
Maybe, although I would say that in the case of my 3, I felt something about all of them after watching them back to back to back. And it's that each one I felt used the runtime really wisely. I wanted to spend more time with these characters and more time in this world. So, obviously a subjective take. I'd be surprised if you felt the same way about my movies. But,
just runtime is very important to me. I think it's probably a little bit less important to you. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Or maybe it's not. It's just you appreciate runtimes differently. You like longer runtimes.
Maybe. Yeah. I also fall asleep really easily. So when it gets long...
That's a big part of it. I like watching movies at night, and it's well, I'm not trying to stay up later than normal. I'm not trying to add an extra 45 minutes onto my bedtime here.
Right, right.
I don't. A 2 hour plus, I believe strongly in the fact that I think movies are just kind of innately designed to be 2 hour stories.
Yes.
Roughly 2 hours. And so when you start to push it to 2.5, almost 3 hours, it's just you really need to earn it. And I think a lot of movies don't.
That's a fair criticism. I hope that with these 3 episodes, we have convinced our audience that runtimes do matter and they're
really
worth
do.
paying attention to. And we'll get into that a little bit tonight. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah.
Start us off with a movie
Enough complaining about 170-minute movies.
Yeah. Give us something that's 127 minutes.
Well, I'm going to go with a movie from 1989 that is 126 minutes.
All right.
The title is Batman. This is filed under Goth Makeovers. Here's the back of the box. Batman must face his most ruthless nemesis when a deformed madman calling himself the Joker seizes control of Gotham's criminal underworld. Tagline, justice is always darkest before the dawn.
Well, that's... It feels connected to the Batman universe.
Yeah, I like that. I like that tagline.
It works.
It's not the greatest tagline. It might be the best one I have tonight, but it's it gets the job done.
Yeah.
I haven't been the biggest fan of comic book movies over the years.
Okay.
They're just not really my thing, but I've always enjoyed or at least been intrigued by Batman movies.
Yeah. The Batman universe is fun to occupy.
Yeah. And I think because they're not trying to fit into a larger narrative. They're not trying to be like the MCU where it's kind of an episode in a TV show and they have to build out all this other stuff.
Right.
Batman has always been very siloed away from everything else. At least it seemed that way.
Yeah.
I think maybe they tried to do a little bit differently with the Zack Snyder movies.
Yeah, perhaps.
But also, he's not a real superhero. He doesn't have superpowers.
No, he's just a rich guy.
He's just a rich guy with toys.
a chip on his shoulder, yeah.
The chip on his shoulder. He has I don't know, the capabilities of getting all these amazing gadgets, which doesn't seem possible. They kind of explained it in the Nolan movies a little bit better.
Yeah.
And these older movies are just oh, he's got it.
Yeah, he's rich. Why are you asking?
He ordered it on Amazon.
Right. Yeah,
What's the big deal? But I think this is still my favorite Batman movie, which means it's probably my favorite comic book movie of all time.
That is a fascinating take. And we can get into this more later, but I walked away from this feeling like this is my least favorite Batman movie.
I mean, of all the Batman movies?
Yes.
including Forever, including
Yeah, give me the nipples, give me the crazy Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze. I'll take all that wackiness. I don't enjoy this movie.
That's insane. Why?
Well, I appreciate Tim Burton as a director. I think that he's doing some interesting things here. I think that inherent to a good Batman movie is action. I don't think he's very good at action.
Yeah.
I also just find this boring.
Interesting.
And I don't know. I mean,
here's the thing: Batman was not associated with action
no,
before this.
no.
This one comes across as a little bit campy now, but in 1989, this was like down and dirty because Batman was mostly associated with that 1960s like goofy ass TV show.
Yeah.
And so Tim Burton was like, no, let's make it like this like gothic horror aesthetic and make Batman kind of a dark, crazy guy.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like, hey, cool dude, let's go out and like beat up some criminals. And so, there was never like an action thing. It was never there was no such thing as like a Batman action movie before this.
No, there wasn't. Well, I mean, there was the show which had a fair amount of beating up the bad guys. Fist fights, yeah. But not action the way it has been defined in future Batman movies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I really enjoy Christopher Nolan's take on all things Gotham and that whole universe of Batman things. Mm-hmm. And part of what I love about that is the supporting cast of characters and actors that he's brought into that world. And I mean, you get Michael Keaton here, who's not my favorite Batman. Jack Nicholson.
Hot take.
Yeah. You get Jack Nicholson, who gives a compelling take on the Joker, but it's hard for me to divorce Jack Nicholson from that role. And beyond that, it's like Kim Basinger's there, but I miss the, Alfred is forgettable as a butler in these for me. Mm-hmm. And, I wish that Commissioner Gordon was a compelling character and all of the other wacky villains and stuff. So, having gotten that in future movies, and then going back to this, it had been maybe 35 years since I've seen this.
Wow.
And, I was really missing a lot of the things I grew to appreciate in future Batman movies.
See, I find Jack Nicholson way more compelling as the Joker than like Heath Ledger.
Interesting. That's a hot take.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a hot take.
No, they both won Oscars.
Yeah, they're totally different takes on the Joker.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholson's way more cartoony.
Yeah.
But he seems way more human at the same time.
He does.
Like, I understand why he's crazy. I understand what he's doing and why. I understand why he has a gang of people working for him. I understand how he became who he is.
Yeah.
I also I'm not a big fan of the Nolan movies necessarily. I like the first one. The other ones, I kind of think are boring.
Okay. I mean,
I don't enjoy them all that much.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm like, oh yeah, I like Batman movies, but I only really like a couple of Batman movies.
Right.
But it's an interesting character to check out. I think the new Batman, The Batman, is terrible. I think the Christopher Nolan movies are range from very good with Batman Begins, and I think the other two are I can give or take.
Okay.
And I think those are just below this one.
Oh, interesting.
and then Batman Returns, I think, is not very good. One of the smallest movies I've ever seen. It seems like they shot it in a closet. It is it's incredibly small. But I also think Michelle Pfeiffer gives an amazing performance in that. The best performance in any Batman movie.
Yeah. Did I say Kim Basinger in this? Oh, yeah. Kim Basinger is in this.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer is
Catwoman in Returns. Yeah. So I don't love Batman movies necessarily. I just think it's interesting. It's one of the few comic book characters I will go back to. I'll watch another Batman movie, and that's someone else's take. But I only think there's a couple of good ones.
Yeah, I hear you. And this what really stood out for me with this one was that personally, I love how Nolan really brought Gotham to life. Now, you can criticize, and I think a lot of people do, whether it feels like a comic accurate Gotham City. You know, I think even some of the video games, like the Arkham Asylum video games, did a better job of creating Gotham than Nolan did. But at least it feels like a place that is compelling and interesting. And I think that some of the matte paintings and the way it's depicted in Tim Burton's movie looks interesting, but I wanted to feel the city more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like a take on New York City.
Yeah,
this feels, the first one seems like it's shot on a lot. It very much seems like a fake New York City.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy because they went like even smaller with the second movie, which is nuts. But,
yeah.
But you know, this movie's 126 minutes, and like, but honestly, it feels brisk compared to the comic book movies and the Batman movies we're getting now. I mean, the Nolan Bat flicks are like 140 minutes minimum.
Oh yeah, they're long.
The new Matt Reeves Batman is 3 hours.
Oh, it's super long.
And it's like the last hour and a half of that movie is completely unnecessary. You know, for a Batman movie, like it should be less than 2 hours. It should be like an hour and 55, hour and 59.
Yeah.
So like 2 hours and 6 minutes, whatever this is. Like to me, I'm like, yeah, that seems like it's a little bit too long. But also, it's like the shortest Batman movie we've ever gotten, you know, that wasn't directed by Joel Schumacher. It's like, I'll take it, you know.
Yeah.
I understand, like, when you're making a movie like this, especially, you know, you're dealing with, like, fast food companies and you're dealing with all these competing action figures, all this stuff. We got to get this in, we got to get that in, whatever. So, like, I understand it's tough to, like, whittle down a perfect 90-page script for a movie like Batman.
Yeah.
But, like, thank God they got it down to 2 hours and 7 minutes. Like, you know, back then they're like, we got to do that. We got to get it, you know, at least close to 2 hours. Now nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And they don't even try with Marvel movies. They're just like,
no,
they shoot a bunch of stuff, and then they're like,
zero fucks.
Then they like go into the editing room, and they're like, okay, we're gonna shoot a bunch of more stuff.
Yeah,
later.
let's do some reshoots to add to this.
Yeah, but they plan reshoots from day one.
It's
just and like they don't even try to get a script. You know, and they're just like, we're just going to shoot 8 hours of stuff and then make a movie out of it.
Yeah. Well, you know, you talked about some of the other Batman movies, and I realize that there's probably some people that are cringing at my take on this, but
frankly, I'm pretty surprised.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that with Nolan and Reeves, we went into a more grounded in reality take on Batman, and with Schumacher, we went into flamboyant, crazy, bonkers Batman.
Yes.
And I would rather live in either of those two sides of the rainbow than in the middle, which is where I think we are with this. And yeah, I just want to turn the dial in one direction or the other.
I hear you. But also, none of this comic book shit would be happening without this Batman movie.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I respect its place in just turning Hollywood toward where we are today.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is 3.6 overall in Letterboxd. 2,000 users have it in their 4 favorites. For comparison, Dark Knight, 88,000 people have it in their 4 favorites.
Oh, wow.
I think Dark Knight has a higher rating. 30% agree with my 4-star rating, including user Cat, who says, I love how the Joker gang all have little matching jackets. More henchmen should coordinate like that. Really makes it feel like a team effort. So it would have fit into our teamwork episode.
It would have, yeah.
So Tim Burton's Batman going up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for the topic of about 127 minutes.
Well, you know, I had been putting off a rewatch of this, so I'm glad that I had a chance to rewatch it. If for no other reason than it cemented its place in my Batman ranking list.
Yeah. I got to defend Michael Keaton as Batman also a little bit here. Like I think I like him as Batman. I think he's got, and especially I think because of the way he's shot maybe too, like he has a little bit of a psychopathic look to him. He looks like he's underneath, like he's just kind of bored with life and wants to kill somebody.
So yes, I don't disagree with you in his performance as Batman. However, what's lacking for me is his performance as Bruce Wayne. I think that of all the different characters that or the different actors that we've gotten who play Batman, Christian Bale probably, in my opinion, did the best job of doing both of those characters really well. I think Robert Pattinson, horrible Bruce Wayne, and yeah, Clooney, I think, did a good job of. I mean, like, in spite of the fact that he had nipples on his suit, I can believe him as Bruce Wayne, and I could buy him as Batman in Schumacher's version. But yeah, Michael Keaton lacks as Bruce Wayne for me.
I disagree. That's what it's. It's just part of the podcast.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I have a feeling that this won't be the last time we disagree tonight. But nevertheless, it fits the theme perfectly.
It does.
And
it's right in that window.
I'm thrilled that you and a lot of movie fans are fond of this movie. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna take us ahead in time with my first picks. We're going into 2018 from the keep your hands and head inside the vehicle section of the store. My first pick is Hereditary, which clocks in at 128 minutes. So, here's the back of the box on Hereditary. Following the death of Ellen Lee, the matriarch of their family, her daughter Annie and the rest of the family start to uncover disturbing secrets about their heritage. Their daily lives are not only impacted, but they also become entangled in a chilling fate from which they cannot escape, driving them to the brink of madness. Tagline here is every family tree hides a secret, which is passable.
Passable. It is technically a tagline.
Yes. In the same way that Batman was really close to that 127-minute bullseye, so is Hereditary. It's off by a minute.
We're good at this.
We are.
Let's be honest. We're good at this.
Yeah,
we can figure out how long movies are.
I've wanted to talk about Hereditary for a while because I am very, very fond of this movie. As you and our listeners probably know, I'm a big fan of horror, and this is exactly the type of horror movie that I love. But it also just happens to be the right amount of time on screen. So before I get into this, I want to just pitch it to you and see how you feel about Hereditary after a second viewing, because I know how you felt about your first, and
I'm not
fond of it. But maybe
this is this is a hard movie for me to figure out my feelings about. Well, I mean, I don't like it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay.
But this is both of Ari Aster's first movies, this and Midsommar, are the two movies that I have a really hard time giving a star rating to. Because both of them, I really want to give 2 stars because I just don't like them.
Okay.
But also, there's so much about them that I do appreciate that it's almost impossible. So they have to be 3-star movies to me, but I hate that.
That's phenomenal. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll get into some of the reasons as we go forward.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
But I think Aster's one of those filmmakers that is supremely talented and just keeps making stuff that I don't like.
Yeah, well, this was his directorial debut, and it blew me away when I first saw it. And then my opinion of this almost started to change a little bit after seeing Midsommar, which I also liked, but both of those movies deal in grief heavily. And I started to feel after Midsommar okay, well, if this guy is just going to be telling grief stories, then it's going to detract from how much I appreciate.
That's also what the horror market was
at
that time, so you can't really blame him for that.
No, but I want him to evolve.
Yeah.
And he is. I mean, Beau's Afraid is a very different movie.
Kind of dealing with similar themes.
But
especially to this.
Yeah. I would say less of a horror movie. Although, I mean, even the actors who starred in this don't think of this as a horror movie. They think of this as a family drama. But, yeah, I want him to show me that he's capable of something different.
Yes.
But yeah, there's just in terms of production here, one thing that I really like is that there's very little CG. He wanted to do everything practically, even to the point of the decapitation, which is pretty fundamental to this. That's all done practically. They didn't actually kill somebody, but
how practical are we talking here?
I thought you would find this interesting. When I was watching some special features on this and learning about some of the inspiration behind it, Ari Aster mentioned that the main film that he cites as inspiration for Hereditary is The Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and His Lover.
I mean, that's too bad. I definitely enjoy this way more than that movie.
Yeah.
I despise that movie.
I think most people probably do. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, man, my guy.
Of course that's what he likes.
Yeah. So, yeah, the cast here, we get Toni Collette. She plays Annie Graham, the mother of the woman the mother of the family and the daughter of the woman who dies at the beginning. She was actually looking for lighter roles when Hereditary came her way, but she was impressed by the script. She was like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." And I think she does a great job. Millie Shapiro, I was really interested in her. She plays the young daughter whose head hits a telephone pole, and she has a look to her that makes you think, okay, well, perhaps they cast a disabled person for this part because they wanted somebody with that particular look. Apparently, she has a medical condition called cleidocranial dysplasia, which is the same condition that Gaten Matanzaro from Stranger Things has. It's one of the kids, Dustin, I think. And, it has an effect on the way your face is structured, but there's no neurological, side effects to this.
Gotcha.
Alex Wolff is the son. Gabriel Byrne plays the father. Why did I choose this? I mean, apart from the fact that it comes really close to the bullseye, I love the pace of this movie. And I also really appreciate, from a horror perspective, how it delivers its scares. It's not interested in jump scares. It's just this building dread that culminates in some sporadically horrifying things. Yeah. But it also works similar to Rosemary's Baby, where as things unfold, you realize that more and more people in the town are part of this thing that the family is trying to escape. And I love that. I'm also the fact that this. I'm also fond of the fact that this this film is for the time, I think, was trying to do something very different than what where the horror genre was headed. So I think it did a good job at steering the genre in a different direction and keeping it fresh.
I'm glad you brought this for this topic specifically.
Okay.
Because, like you said, this movie is kind of two different movies. Or at least it's kind of sold as this horror story, but it's really this family drama.
Yeah.
Filled with trauma.
Yeah.
And it's kind of both of those movies put together. And I think the version of this movie that I want to see is an 85-minute version of this story of this family who's caught up in this supernatural story with the son and the spirit and all this stuff. And maybe with some of that family stuff snuck in there, and then, cut down to a point where it's like the focus is on this supernatural stuff, the horror elements. I want the 85-minute version of this movie that is just that, or at least enough of that where it's you can actually taste that part of the movie.
Okay.
I think if Ari Aster was able to make the exact movie that he wanted in this, it would have been 170 minutes.
Oh, they actually have a 4-hour cut of this.
I'm sure.
It's all family dialogue. It's all all that was cut out was family dynamics.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So I think somehow this is right in the middle of that. This is like exactly what we're going for with this topic between like the very long and the short.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of just speaks to like why I do not get along with him as a filmmaker.
Interesting.
Because I'm like, this is absolutely not the version of this story that I want to see.
So you want more of the occult and less of the family drama? Or would you say it's either one or the other?
I think you could take this footage, and cut it down to an 85-minute version where the occult is like the main focus of the story. And maybe this family bullshit that's happening, that leads up to that, like cut out like all like there's I mean, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. That's why like he doesn't work for me, because like he's trying to make something completely different.
Yeah.
This was a compromise in my direction,
but not
I
far
feel
enough.
like, but it's not still not for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, as a fan of this, obviously I'm going to defend it. I think that you need some of the family drama in order to see her going crazy and then becoming susceptible to the occult stuff. But I don't disagree that
it fits with the story.
Yeah.
I guess the pacing is maybe the problem. I think there's just too much of that stuff. It takes too long, and like I don't know, there's like a 45-minute section of this movie where the son and the mom are just going back and forth with each other. Like, why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? It's like,
why did you try to set me on fire?
It's like, yeah, I get it. Like, all right, move on. And
Yeah.
it keeps going on. And like, to me, I could use way less of that stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think the people a lot of people love this movie. So they disagree.
It's true. A lot of people do, but I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. I mean, so there's 34,000 fans that have this on their among their top 4. It averages a 4.0. I have it at a 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why this wouldn't work for some people. I'd be interested in watching a shorter version and evaluating whether or not I miss some of what I think I appreciate. I'd also be interested in watching a longer version and seeing if that works for me too. This is one where I really just love this world and want more of it. Well, I will be interested in hearing. So I can't help but to wonder if your take on Midsommar is similar. We'll save that for when that inevitably shows up on this.
I think you should bring it.
Yeah. I do.
Force me to watch it again.
I do think that regardless of your opinion of the film, you would appreciate user Mari's 4.5-star review of the movie, where he said, according to my mom's friend, none of this would have happened if the son hadn't smoked weed.
I thought about that watching it.
Yeah.
Someone's going to blame the drugs on this.
Yeah. So that's my first choice, Hereditary, going on the shelf.
All right.
127 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to bring us up to a newer movie from 2019. Runtime is 125 minutes.
Right
So
on.
a little bit under.
Yeah, a little under.
It's called Long Shot. This is directed by Jonathan Levine, who directed 50/50 and The Night Before, and apparently an upcoming Dirty Dancing Legacy sequel.
What?
That's what, according to Letterboxd, one of the movies on his filmography is an upcoming Dirty Dancing movie.
Well, my curiosity is piqued.
Yeah, curious about that myself.
Yeah.
This is filed under Premature Presidents.
Now, 50/50 had Seth Rogen in it. Did, what was the other?
The Night Before it did as well.
That also had Seth Rogen. Okay, so he's a fan of Seth Rogen.
Yes, they're
They're buddies.
creative partners, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Here's the back of the box. Journalist Fred Flarsky reunites with his childhood crush, Charlotte Field, now one of the most influential women in the world. As she prepares to make a run for the presidency, Charlotte hires Fred as her speechwriter, much to the dismay of her trusted advisors. This tagline is
Terrible.
I mean, well, here. Okay. Unlikely, but not impossible. That's like, in case you didn't know what long shot means,
Yeah,
the
let's-
producers looked it up in the dictionary for you. Unlikely, but not impossible.
I got to give that a D.
It's like, it's just hilarious. It's like literally just like the definition
Come
of
on.
long shot.
That's lazy. Yeah.
Like they just thought people wouldn't know what that meant.
Come on.
So long shot uses it kind of uses the romantic comedy framework to tell a story about, happiness versus ambition and human connection in the inhuman world of politics.
Yeah.
But I think it successfully works as a romance and as a comedy.
Yeah. I hadn't seen this. I perhaps unfairly assumed that it was going to be a disappointing R-rated comedy that wouldn't age well, and I did feel like I was probably going to get the same Seth Rogen that I get in every movie, and you do, but he's still funny.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that is, the same in every movie, but what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah, when you're good at doing that, why not?
If you want a Seth Rogen movie, you only have one Seth Rogen.
Yeah, exactly.
So Charlize Theron is the Secretary of State. She's on the verge of running for president, and so Seth Rogen is like a recently unemployed journalist. Yeah. She used to babysit him when they were kids, and so she's like, "Why don't you come work for me?"
Yeah.
They were 13 and 16,
right?
Which is the time, which is like kind of weird. You're like 13-year-olds. Does he need a babysitter?
I think I was babysitting at 13.
A babysitter can be 13 years old.
Yeah.
But also, I also thought that maybe that was one of the only combination of ages you could get that wasn't creepy.
Yeah.
Because if she was 17, you're like, I don't know, that's gross. And then if he was 12, or if there's more than that, so
it has
weird.
To be that.
And so you have to think that there's got to be a weird parent out there that doesn't understand that a 13-year-old doesn't need to be babysat by a 16-year-old. But they kind of had to make it like that.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron, I think, is 7 years older than Seth Rogen. So,
is she?
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
But
I wouldn't have guessed that.
But even then, she is still 40 when she was making this movie, and they never really say that's really young to run for president.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we haven't had a president anywhere near 40.
No.
Right? How old was Kennedy? 45? I don't know.
Older than 40.
So he gets the call, and he's the speechwriter, and they start traveling the world together, and they get to know each other, and they fall in love, despite all the professional challenges that it creates. But I love that these are not characters looking for love. These are my favorite romantic comedies, where it's just they're doing other stuff. There's a whole other thing going on here, and then it's not it's not someone going well, I got to find a husband. Somehow. She's not looking for anybody, except for maybe a fake political relationship.
Right.
So she's also been in politics since high school.
Yeah.
And now she's a Secretary of State. So she's in a completely artificial environment as a politician. And so she hasn't really had any human connections in probably in 25 years.
Right.
And so it reminded me of being an Olympic gymnast or something, or an ice skater.
Yeah.
Where you just grow up in the gyms.
Yeah.
And then you go to the Olympics and you're 18 or 20 years old or whatever. And then you get out and then it's I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know. I literally don't know how to operate in the world.
Well, she doesn't know how to wave, so
she doesn't know how to wave, and so Seth Rogen might be the first human relationship she's had in all this time.
Yeah,
and they never really say you're actually my first friend that I've ever had since I was a teenager. So maybe that's why I'm mistaking this for true love.
Right. I appreciated that about this too, because I think you made a great analogy in terms of comparing this to an Olympic athlete, and I think you need something like that, just like we had in Knocked Up, to explain why somebody so beautiful would be with Seth Rogen. Whether it's either you got shit-faced and you don't remember it, or you were a politician who didn't have any human contact with Seth Rogen as a human.
she's emotionally stunted enough that this relationship makes sense for her. And it makes sense in the movie. But I don't know, Seth Rogen, he's charming in this. You can see why they would get along at least. You know? So they're definitely not a conventional rom-com pairing, but the chemistry works.
It does work. There is chemistry, and that's fundamental to a good rom-com.
Yeah.
We just had one with Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney where there was a black hole of chemistry earlier this year. And so it's refreshing after watching something like that to see a rom-com that understands that these characters need to feel like they belong together.
I haven't seen that one yet. But
Don't.
But also there's June Diane Raphael as the this chief of staff.
Yeah, she's good.
For Charlize Theron, and Bob Odenkirk is fucking great as the president.
You're
Very small part, but great.
You haven't mentioned my favorite character in this movie yet.
Who?
Which is Seth Rogen's friend, Ice Cube's son.
Oh yeah,
He's
O'Shea Jackson.
he steals every scene that he's in, and I love him.
And also Andy Serkis is like the Rupert Murdoch guy. He's pretty funny.
That's Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was feeling like I recognized him, but I was like, I don't know.
He was wearing a lot of stuff.
A lot of prosthetics.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Not quite like ape prosthetics, but like pretty close.
Pretty close.
There's also a sex scene in it that's like absolutely hilarious and like maybe the shortest sex scene of all time.
Yeah.
It's like maybe 10 seconds long.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like this is a great comedy. It doesn't drag. It's mostly well paced.
Yeah.
But like I firmly believe the 125 minutes is too long for a rom-com. This movie should be 98 minutes.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, maybe not that short, but like, I don't know, 115 minutes is good.
You can cut some stuff. I mean, I actually think you can cut some stuff where Seth Rogen as an adult is acting more like a 13-year-old than the scenes where we see him acting like we see him as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a hard time, and I'm nitpicking here because I did enjoy this. I had a little bit of a hard time believing that she appreciated him as a writer.
I was going to say that. There's no evidence in this movie that he is a good writer at all.
None. And I mean, we even just see like some of his old stories where like the headline is "fuck Exxon," and it's like, yeah, this is the. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe she just liked him as a person, but
well, like maybe the writing underneath that headline is good.
Maybe,
but like they didn't prove it.
No,
the headline is like, well, this is just a dumb blog. This is the guy screaming on the internet.
Yes.
So like maybe, but also maybe she was like attracted to him immediately, and she was like, I don't care that he's a shitty writer. But
yeah,
they didn't say that either.
Right. Do one of them.
Yeah. But yeah, like, you know, I maybe I'm just, I'm a stickler. I don't mean to be like a strict formalist, but 125 minutes for a rom-com, cut out 5 to 10 minutes.
That's not what we're interested in.
Absolutely.
Rom-com.
But yeah, this is rated 3.2 overall on Letterboxd. 102 users have it in their 4 favorites. I bumped this up to 4 stars this time. I really enjoy it. I'm going to go back to it.
Yeah.
I think it really holds up after 5 years. 19% of Letterboxd agrees with me, including Letterboxd user Harlequinade, who says in her review, I can confidently say it's the sweetest movie where someone ejaculates in their own face. Which is
small collection of films, I'm sure, but, or at least
That's one of that was a kind of an awkward part of the movie too, where obviously that's a weird scene to have in a movie, but also it's like the way that it was handled and like with the TV station and stuff. It's like it was very unrealistic, it's not exactly how politics works.
No.
Fox News would never release a video of like a presidential candidate's husband jerking off. But I thought, putting my notes together for this, I was like, did they keep that in just because of the title of the movie, Long Shot? Was that like, is that the only reason they kept that in there? I
didn't even think about that.
I don't know.
You might be onto something.
It's my new conspiracy theory. Anyway, I think it's an outstanding romantic comedy that's it's kind of overlooked, and
I overlooked it.
I think it still is very relevant, holds up in 2024. So I'm putting it on the shelf this week for about 127 minutes.
This was my first time watching it, so it starts out a 3-star movie for me. But I could definitely see myself going back to this, and it could grow in the future.
Awesome, yeah, it's a good one.
Well, I am going to take us from Long Shot to another 2-word titled movie from 2001. This is from the Never Trust the Food at an Amusement Park section of the store, right next to Adventureland. And my second choice is Spirited Away, which comes in at 125 minutes. Nice. Back of the box synopsis. A young girl, Chihiro, becomes trapped in a strange new world of spirits. When her parents undergo a mysterious transformation, she must call upon the courage she never knew she had to free her family. There is no tagline for this,
Great.
which is better than a bad tagline.
I agree.
Yeah. So how does this fit the theme? For me, Spirited Away absolutely maximizes its runtime. I love that this manages to build an entirely rich new world, introducing a large cast of characters, takes the audience on an emotional journey over the course of 2 hours and 5 minutes. For me, every scene here does serve a purpose, whether it's to develop Chihiro's character or expand on the intricacies of the spirit world or advance the plot. Miyazaki's ability to balance world building with character development just, I think, comes together in a perfect combination here. So I'm a big fan of what resulted after he had the idea for this, which was based on just a friend of his had a pretty forlorn 10-year-old daughter, and that's what kickstarted it. Interestingly, this did not have a script when development began, which may or may not surprise people. Apparently, Miyazaki films never have scripts during production. He said, in regards to Spirited Away specifically, I don't have the story finished and ready when we're about to start work on a film. I usually don't have the time. So the story develops when I start drawing storyboards. The production starts soon while the storyboards are still developing. And it's not me who makes the film makes itself, and I have no choice but to follow. I wouldn't criticize people for saying, yeah, it feels like there was not a script here. But I still love the way it came together for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was... I mean, yeah, you make your movies how you make your movies.
Yeah, everybody's got a different process. Yeah. So this is a Studio Ghibli film. While the studio's work was known to Western audiences, it was really John Lasseter who, from Pixar, who gave this movie an audience. He supervised the English language dubbing of the film, even worked to match the actors' dialogue with the mouth movements of the animated characters. I guess he saw this, the Japanese version, and just felt compelled to give it a wider audience. So he was in charge of the English language dub.
Nice.
So this was made right at a time where digital animation was taking off, but Miyazaki, a traditionalist, was committed to hand drawing each of these cells. There's like 144,000 individual cells that were created for this film, and I don't know. I think there's something special about the way Studio Ghibli approaches their movies, and it's in the details. Here you get. Miyazaki even said there's things that he was very fixated on, like paying attention to how Chihiro's shoes fit to ensure that the animation felt realistic and grounded.
It looks great. I mean,
it does. It's so
every
beautiful.
Little detail. Even they even have shots where the focus is they pull the focus on things.
Yeah.
In an animated movie, which is crazy.
Oh yeah,
The way they draw it.
It's gorgeous. The cast here is largely unknown to... I mean, even the English language cast, people probably wouldn't recognize. I think they do a great job voicing these characters. But why did I choose this? In my opinion, every minute of this film is astounding. I think the world that these characters occupy is so breathtaking and unexpected. It's a story about self-discovery, and you really see the character of Chihiro grow and change over the course of these 125 minutes. She starts off as very meek and cowering, and by the end, she's confident and believes in herself. I recognize that so much of this movie is strange and bizarre, and I'm here for all of it. I love the stink spirits, the radish spirits, the dismembered heads, giant babies. Everything is weird and wonderful.
I mean, it's not completely unlike Labyrinth. It's a similar type of story.
Mm-hmm.
A kid goes off on an adventure in search of somebody.
Yes.
And enters a
less
strange world. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
zero David Bowie in this.
yes.
Zero.
But yeah, I think that's a strong comparison. I love it. I don't need an explanation for all the weird shit that we get. I just find myself wanting more of it. I definitely want to spend more time in this world. It feels like Alice in Wonderland, where Wonderland actually lives up to its name. So yeah, I think that it's a pretty magical movie in the most literal sense of the word. Had you seen this before?
No.
What did you think?
You know, I have a hard time connecting with animated movies, honestly. I think a lot like Labyrinth with the puppets and the children. This, like, I enjoyed looking at it. I had a hard time, like, really paying attention to the story.
Yeah.
I just like a lot of animated movies. I don't know what it is, just not quite for me. I mean, I definitely appreciated the animation, though. I mean, it was beautiful to look at.
It was beautiful to look at. It's funny because Miyazaki is on record saying that he made this. The target audience for him was 10-year-old girls.
Yeah,
which you are not.
I'm not. He missed the mark with me.
He did. I mean, it's
fine.
It's certainly gained quite an audience.
I get that a lot of people love animation, and I can see why this is one of the best animated movies of all time.
It has become a bona fide classic. It's the highest rated animated movie on both Letterboxd and IMDb. It was the first anime film to be nominated and win an Academy Award. So on Letterboxd today, it averages a 4.5. It is also number 29 in the Letterboxd 250, which is pretty remarkable. There's 83,000 fans that have this in their top 4. I couldn't help but to laugh at Lily's review of the film where she said, "I'm assuming this is the type of vacation that David Lynch would organize for his family."
It's too coherent for that.
I agree with you there. This is weird. It's beautiful. I love it. So I'm throwing it on the shelf. 125 minutes, right kind of in that perfect window for us. So.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to take us to 1978. The runtime, according to Letterboxd, is 127 minutes, right on the dot.
That is on the dot.
Yeah, I think we should note that we're going by the Letterboxd runtimes here.
Well,
and every runtime is measured differently.
Yeah. When I queued this up, though, it told me it was 127 minutes in 8 seconds.
8 seconds.
So
this might be the closest we get to exactly 127
I agree.
minutes. This is filed under. Oh, I'm sorry. This is called Dawn of the Dead from 1978. This is filed under Mallrats.
Love that.
Back of the box. During an ever-growing epidemic of zombies that have risen from the dead, 2 Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his television executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. Tagline, just a line from the movie. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Which is not a bad tagline, but it's in the movie.
Yeah, it's in the movie. Yeah, it's fine.
So this is written and directed by the great George Romero. It's a landmark zombie film. It drops us right into the middle of a zombie apocalypse, presumably the same one as Night of the Living Dead.
I love how this begins.
Oh, the beginning of the movie is, it might be the best part of the movie.
I think it is.
When we're in the TV station and we just get immersed in this world. There's no zombies. We don't see any zombies.
No.
But we know exactly what the fuck is going on just by the way people are talking over each other. It's almost like a Robert Altman scene. Everyone's talking over each other. There's background noise. There's newscasts. There's people screaming and,
The sense of panic. Yeah. And it almost feels like the countdown to Christmas morning, if Christmas morning was like a night in hell. You feel this sense of dread looming.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, it's incredible. The whole movie to me kind of defines that independent 70s horror aesthetic, especially the zombie aesthetic. This is more so than Night of the Living Dead. This is the movie that kind of defines that for me in my head. I don't know if that's just because of how old I am or how this, but I think this kind of movie is kind of is the one.
This is, of Romero's of the Living Dead movies, this by far my favorite.
Yeah. I love the idea of writing out a zombie apocalypse in a mall. It's just like, it's so awesome for so many reasons, but also part of the fun of watching this movie is going like, they're doing it wrong. They're not doing it right. They're not good at this.
Yeah.
They don't have the benefit of watching decades worth of zombie movies.
Right.
So it's hard to hold it against them. But like, I don't know, they're not fortifying where they're living enough. They're not taking. They're like not managing their food correctly, or their resources in general. Like they're not. I don't know. It's like they're not doing it right. They lock themselves in this like office in the middle of nowhere that's like somehow insecure and also completely cut off from the rest of the building. It's just they're terrible at this.
Yeah.
And it drives me kind of crazy, but it's also kind of awesome. You know, it's kind of the point of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just but because like doing this in a mall would be so fucking great.
Oh,
especially like restaurants and stuff. Like while the electricity's on, like it would be amazing.
I mean, they made a video game literally about this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's so much to like about this movie. But as far as the runtime goes, this was a co-production with Dario Argento's production company in Italy.
No shit.
And so, you know, the theatrical cut that we're talking about is 127 minutes. But Argento was in charge of putting together a cut for the international market, and his cut is 119 minutes, which we have here at the store, but I've never seen.
Oh, interesting. I haven't seen that either.
I'm super interested to check it out. Maybe I will if we do a 119-minute episode. A little bit too short for this one. But also the movie was in the Cannes Film Festival, and Romero was in the middle of doing the cut for the movie, and the festival deadline was coming up, and the cut that he had at the time was 139 minutes. So he's like, I'll just send that one. So he sent that one into the Cannes Film Festival, and so that's kind of become known as the director's cut. Even though Romero he cut the theatrical cut as well.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's just like the Cannes cut. It's just like, oh, this is what I had at the time. Because I hadn't gotten it down. But it is considered a separate cut of the movie. We have that one at the store, and I also haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is rated 4.0 overall on Letterboxd. I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, agree.
2,800 users have it in their 4 favorites.
Oh, wow.
32% agree with my 4-star rating, including user Persia, who says, "Oh, to be a zombie in flared jeans, wandering around an abandoned 1970s shopping mall. No thoughts, just vibes." Which is
well said.
Yeah, pretty much what they were doing.
I love the scene where they're in the helicopter pushing the mall, and they're looking for a place to like hole up. And somebody asks, like, what is that building down there? And it's like, it must be one of those new shopping malls.
One of those new shopping malls. Yeah. Was it that new in 1978? I feel like
I don't know.
You should have known. You're from Philadelphia.
There's so much that is just so much fun to return to here. I mean, when they turn the power on and the mall comes to life, and they just have that like minute-long scene where you just see the zombies wandering around in a completely like alive mall.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, this is such an awesome film.
Yeah, it's one of the greats, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And so I'm putting it up on the shelf this week for about 127 minutes.
Fine pick. I love this movie. So I would have chosen it for myself, but you got to it first.
Yeah, I'm a little quicker than you are.
Indeed. All right, well, I'm also going back in time with my final pick. In my case, all the way back to 1960. And this is from the Isn't It Sexy That I Know Your Social Security Number section of the store. 125 minutes is the runtime for The Apartment. Here's the back of the box. Bud Baxter is a minor clerk in a huge New York insurance company until he discovers a quick way to climb the corporate ladder. He lends out his apartment to the executives as a place to take their mistresses. Although he often has to deal with the aftermath of their visits, one night he's left with a major problem to solve. So the tagline is making reference to one of the characters' dialogue. I actually think there's a better tagline that is a line from the movie, but I'll give you the official one first. Movie-wise, there's never been anything like it. Laugh-wise, love-wise, or otherwise-wise. Which,
this is, this is like a, I think a theater era, like there was a different thing back then.
It was
they
a
didn't quite
different
get the taglines yet.
They didn't.
1960.
I do think there is a line of dialogue that would have served as a good tagline, which is, might as well go to my place, everyone else does. Which,
that actually would work.
Yeah, throw it on the front of the box.
It's a line of dialogue.
Even though it's a line of dialogue. So this had been on my list to watch for a long time. I was glad to finally have a reason to watch this. It was so much better than I expected it to be going in. And who knew it was a Christmas movie?
It does have Christmas in it.
It does, yeah.
It is it's crazy how incongruous so much of it is with modern life, though. How it's just everything, the way office culture works.
Oh, yeah,
and the way people relate to each other and talk to each other, and everything in this movie is just wow. Even stuff like having an elevator operator.
Yeah,
and we're just oh my god, this is a fucking different planet.
Oh, 100%. Yes, I mean even just the culture of having mistresses, and I mean
these guys never heard of a hotel. What is going on here? Right.
Yeah, and the way they talk about it. I mean, there's even scenes where some of these women who are going up with these guys have husbands, and they talk about my husband's gonna kick your ass or something like that. And I don't know, it's very different. Yeah. But I guess the world might have been like that back then.
I think it was a little bit. Yeah, obviously this is a movie, but I think the world was just
a very different place.
Very different.
Yeah,
and you have to look past all that and kind of just take it in.
Yeah,
and just kind of take the movie for what it is.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I avoided this is actually because of the runtime. I avoided it for a long time because movies from this era I generally associate with having a shorter runtime. So when I saw that this was over 2 hours, I unfairly assumed, it was just going to be too much here.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I mean, there's a lot going on in this movie, a lot more than the back of the box suggests. I was thinking of the best way to sum it up, but I think the right way to do it is just to say that it really does use the entirety of that 125 minutes to tell a pretty deep story. It needs all of those minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think time is really wasted here.
I mean, there is a certain pace to it that doesn't exist in movies nowadays. So, you could cut this down a little bit just by the way you make the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no filler necessarily.
Right. I think it was a deeper narrative than I expected, especially for, it's dealing in subject matter that it wasn't even common at the time. Like I said, this was released in 1960 to, critical and commercial success. Billy Wilder, who co-wrote the screenplay with a guy named I.A.L. Diamond, was actually inspired by some real-life stories of people lending out their apartments for illicit affairs. The production design works hard. It's juxtaposing the vast, impersonal office space where Bud works with, a pretty intimate, often claustrophobic apartment. And that's really all you get. It's just those two spaces for most of the movie.
Does anybody work in that fucking office? Nobody's doing anything.
Oh, nobody's doing anything. Especially when you get into the exclusive offices for the higher ups, they're just always sitting around.
Yeah, they're sitting around bullshitting, talking about what apartment they're going to that night. Everybody in the background's hustling around, pretending to work.
Right.
But nobody's doing anything in that office.
Anything. Yeah. So Billy Wilder was definitely one of Hollywood's most acclaimed directors at the time. He had already helmed Some Like It Hot and Sunset Boulevard, and had a reputation for being able to switch seamlessly between genres without missing much of a beat. And I think that definitely happens here. This is trying to be a comedy, whether we would define it as a comedy in 2024 is debatable, but obviously it's seeking to be that. But there's also a lot of biting satire here.
Yeah.
So who do we get? Jack Lemmon plays the character of C.C. Bud Baxter. Sometimes he's referred to as Buddy Boy. Lemmon was already kind of an established star, but I would say his performance is maybe the one thing that I don't love about this movie. It's
Interesting.
The humor is, I don't know, a little over the top for me. And I mean, he's Jack Lemmon. For me, he's the same Jack Lemmon we get when I was introduced to him, which was grumpy old man.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he's always been 60.
Oh, yeah.
You know, even back then, you're like, he's still an old man back in 1960.
Exactly, yeah. But alongside him, we also get Shirley MacLaine as Fran Kubelik. And she plays the love interest of Jack Lemmon. I cannot get enough of her in this. She's just incredible. And yeah, she brought a lot of spontaneity to the part. In fact, one of the more famous scenes in the movie where she and Lemmon are playing gin rummy, she ad-libbed all of her dialogue in that scene, which just crazy. I have to mention that there's also Ray Walston, who we know as the actor who went on to play Burton Timmer in the modern American classic Rad.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's where we know him from.
That's where we know him from. So why did I choose this? There's just so much that I really found impressive. Like I said, this is a really deep, complex story here. I think the script is so well written. Much like a lot of the films we brought to the table, I don't think much time is wasted. I do feel like this feels a lot more modern than it is, just in terms of the story that it's telling. I actually wondered if this has been remade in any capacity, because I do think it's a movie that could be remade for modern audiences and done well. I think the story translates to modern times.
I think the story does. I think so much of the movie's charm is like who made it, though.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's the Wilder's dialogue and
Shirley MacLaine,
the actors.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I like I said, Shirley MacLaine may be my favorite part of this. I think that she's fascinating, beautiful, has this kind of timeless authenticity to the way she plays that part.
Plus, you could never make this movie in a world with Airbnb. You know, it just wouldn't.
Yeah,
couldn't.
Yeah. So for this, Billy Wilder became the first person to win the Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. It was also the last black and white movie to win Best Picture until The Artist in 2012, which definitely marked a pivot for Hollywood. This notches a deserving 4.4 on Letterboxd. I'm new to this, so it's a 4.0 for now, but I can't wait to go back. Similar to Spirited Away, it's also in the Letterboxd 250, so it's number 36. And there's
you're going for the heavy hitters tonight.
Unbeknownst to me, I was surprised to discover that two of these movies were so beloved. But yeah, 7.9 thousand fans have this on their top 4. This might move into my top 4. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I was fond of K. Austin Collins' review of this. He said, Buddy Boy needs a union. Which
I mean, apparently not. He's not doing any work.
He's not. He's
a paycheck.
Yeah, he's just climbing the ladder, lending out his key. But
yeah, there's not got to be a better system for that. These guys could have gone in on an apartment. Like, this isn't tough. These guys,
I know,
could figure this out.
Yeah,
that's what drove me crazy during the first half of this movie.
Well, I thought about it. I found myself thinking about the same thing, and I have to believe that they were claiming to compensate him, but what they were really compensating him with was putting in a good word so he could climb the ladder.
Exactly,
I don't think they were really paying him for his key.
No,
and
I didn't get that impression at all. I thought we'll just like give you a promotion.
Yeah.
So you can get a different bullshit job. You get paid more money.
Right.
But still, like, if you don't get to spend time at your house whenever you want, like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, these guys should be able to figure this out.
I agree.
You know,
had you seen this before?
No, I had never seen it.
What did you think?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
It was. I mean, it's one of those movies that's like on my list of classics that yes, I'll get to one day. And so I'm really glad that you brought it to the shelf.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's my third choice for our 127-minute runtime theme, and yeah, we've got 6 movies that are generally right in that window.
Right.
If you watch them all, you'll have to commit to 755 minutes in front of the TV, which might be too much for one movie. But for 6, You know, yeah.
You can do it in one day.
Right. Yeah. So the movies we chose include Batman, Hereditary, Long Shot, Spirited Away, the 1978 version of Dawn of the Dead, and The Apartment.
Find us on the internet at rewindvideopod.com, and don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and or review the show. Tell your friends.
Tell them all. Tell strangers.
Tell both of your friends.
Yeah. Next time, instead of looking at a stopwatch, we are going to be staring into a mirror.
Oh, that's going to be weird.
Yeah.
It's going to be real weird.
I will stop short of explaining our theme too explicitly, but let's just say that the two of us are rightfully fans of what we're going to be talking about next time.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
It's going to be personal.
It's going to be personal.
It's going to be personal. This time, it's personal.
Yes. Well, until we get to that theme, please feel free to hit us up for a movie to watch, and we will, of course, see you next time.
Be kind. Recommend.